And I will say, I have never had more fun in my entire banking career as I'm having right now. And part of it is working for Happy State Bank and laughing and having fun, but also being able to put together an organization that represents the values that I hold dear to me. And that is family first, community, and my job. And the folks that we've associated with at the bank all feel the same way.
And welcome in everyone to LoneStarVarsity.com. This show is called Happy State Bank Football Fever. I'm Zach Long with George Watson, and we have wrapped up another week of high school action. Getting about that time of year, George, where we wander out of non-conference and go into the ever-important district play.
Yeah, hard to believe that we're sitting here in week 4. We've only got 1 week left before district play starts. Well, if you count the bye, and all the teams are still searching for some answers. Still searching for some momentum to go into district with. But we do have some teams that are playing pretty well, so we've got a good smorgasbord of what's happened so far this year.
And the nice thing about Texas, it's a second chance to dance, because even if you have a bad start to the year, you can right it all with about 3 nice wins in district play.
Exactly.
Speaking of nice play, George, we had some great performances last week in high school football, some overtime games, all kinds of good action. And our top performer of the week, not a bad night on the football field.
Not a bad night for West McCutcheon and Shallowater. Everybody thinks, when you talk about Shallowater, you're thinking Jarek Black and the outstanding running back, and he's certainly done nothing to diminish his star so far. But what's made them so good this early in the season, I think, has been their balance on offense, and West McCutcheon has been a big part of that. Against Dalhart up in Dalhart the other night, he had 177 rushing yards on just 7 carries with a touchdown, and then threw for 134 yards and a touchdown. So a completely balanced group there for Shallowater. It's why they're sitting there averaging about 55, 60 points a game, averaging almost 560 yards a game, and why they're probably the team right now that's been going the best so far.
And they are becoming ever the more dangerous with the more variety of offensive weapons. Yeah. George, our AJ Media Top 5 continues its volatile nature. We have some new members again this week.
Yeah, we've got some new members. We've got 1 new member, and the thing is, you've got 2 members that are playing each other this week.
Yes,
so
we do.
We're probably going to have a shake-up next week, but you got to put Denver City in there this week. The way the Mustangs have gotten off, they're also on a 4-0 start, and I thought this was kind of a team that was hidden in there a little bit in our top 25. Maybe I had them a little low, but they had the kids coming back to be able to have a good season. Mason Milligan doing a good job at quarterback. They've got a talented guy on the outside in Keyshawn Hawkins, and they've got some good running backs led by Caleb King. They're out there quietly mowing through some people as well. So Denver City jumps into the top 5. Everybody else still kind of stays the same. I don't know if the rest of the top 5 will change after this week, but we'll see when Post and Denver City play this week.
Quite frankly, it'll probably change because we've had that aura hanging over that AJ Top 5.
It's happened every week, so why expect it to happen any less?
Speaking of tough jobs, George, to get down to the Happy State Bank Players of the Week, a lot of good performances last week. I don't know how you picked these, but let's start first with a heck of a performance by the quarterback for the Muleshoe Mules.
Yeah, we talked about Muleshoe at the beginning of the year, how young they were. Well, that included quarterback, and that included Danny Campos, the sophomore quarterback for the Mules. You had an outstanding game a couple weeks ago against Midland JV, but that was a JV team. This week, he went out against Roosevelt and just absolutely mowed through the Eagles, had 245 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, and for a group that is led by a bunch of sophomores and juniors still kind of finding their way, for him to have that kind of a game, maybe the big stepping block, the big building block that the Mules need here to go from here on out.
And our female athlete of the week, a familiar name to me, George, because I think she was on our roster of female athletes of the week last year.
Yeah.
Madeline McKay from Lubbock High.
Madeline McKay of Lubbock High, an outstanding outside hitter, just doing a phenomenal job for Lubbock High. I mean, she sits there, she's in the stat sheet every week that we get, leading in kills, leading in digs, doing with the aces, with blocks. She's just an all-around, well-rounded player for Lubbock High, and she's really kind of had to step up and be a leader this year. Last year she was on a team with a lot of seniors, so she was just kind of able to use her ability. This year, she's kind of the senior on that team, and so she's doing a good job not only on the court leading, but leading in the locker room as well.
And you can read George's full profiles on those 2 young athletes over at LoneStarVarsity.com. Let's look at some tasty treats from this week's high school football schedule, George, in our Pick 5. Let's start first with what should be a dandy of a game, Shallow-Water at Idalou.
Yeah, the traditional rivalry between the Mustangs and the Wildcats should be another good one again this year. I mentioned it earlier with Shallow-Water, the way they're playing offensively. I just don't know if anybody can slow them down right now. But if anybody can, it's Idalou and the way they play defense. The key here is going to be the 21-point margin. Idalou has scored 21 points in each of its first 4 games, exactly. No more, no less. If Shallow-Water gets above 21, then they're probably going to go on to win. But if Idalou can hold them to 21 or less, it should be a good game. I'm going to go with Shallow-Water the way they're playing offense, though.
The aforementioned top 5 matchup, George, Post at Denver City.
Yeah, Post at Denver City, 2 4-0 teams, 2 teams that have a lot of good athletes. Post had a survive game against Tahoka last week. Denver City has been on a roll. They beat Kahoma 47-0 last week. I just don't know if anybody can slow down Post enough right now to stop them. I'm going to stick with the Antelopes on this one.
District play continues here for Coronado. Midland Lee, they host them.
Yeah, interesting. James Morton, the former Monterey coach, coming back to town.
Yep.
I was trying to think if this was the first time that he's actually been back to town with Monterey or with Midland Lee since he left. I think it may be, so it should be an interesting homecoming. But I just think the way Lee is playing right now, they're coming off the bye. Coronado did some good at Abilene and Cooper, but just didn't have enough for him. So I think Midland Lee comes in and gets the win.
George, can Monterey get back on track against Caprock?
This is going to be an interesting game for them. If they can get back on track, this is going to be the game to do it. I think they can pound out some offense with their running game. Looks like it's starting to get into motion. I just don't know if they're going to be able to slow down Caprock enough to be able to get the win. I think Monterey goes 0-5 to start the non-district. Nothing new for them. They've done it before. I think Caprock wins a close one, but I think they do come in and get the win on Thursday.
Friendship, our number 1 team, travels to Paladuro.
Yeah, the question here is which Friendship team is going to show up? Is it going to be the team that has played absolutely outstanding at home and just blown away Odessa Permian and Amarillo, or is it going to be the team that struggled on the road against 2 El Paso teams? Luckily, they don't have to go to El Paso this time. They just have to go up to Paladuro. And I think Friendship goes up there and gets the win. It may be a close game, but I think they pull away in the 4th quarter and get the win up there.
Okay, our Happy State Bank game of the week. George, my goodness, the Estacado Matadors finally get a home game. They host Abilene-Wiley.
Yeah, I bet Danny Cervantes has been having to tell the kids, I promise they got a new stadium for us. We get to play in it at some point because they've played each of their first 4 games on the road so far. They finally get a home game against an Abilene-Wiley team that you look at the numbers, has kind of been up and down. They've got a couple of wins. They've got a couple of losses. And quite honestly, they average more yards given up than they do yards on their offense. And I think that's kind of why they've been up and down. The funny thing is here, Estacado's gone up against Abilene-Wiley teams that haven't been as good as this one is and still have lost. But I think Estacado, with their win against Snyder on the road on last week on Friday, maybe gets a little momentum. They're running the ball really well. Jalen Tennyson's starting to come around as quarterback. Maybe they're starting to get a little bit more balance. I'm going to go with the Matadors in this one. I think the early start, 4 o'clock, the afternoon game, finally being at home, I think they're going to have some excitement. Go with the Matadors on this one.
It would be a huge win to get that Abilene-Wiley monster off of their back that they have battled over their recent history.
It would.
George, a lot of good games this week. Of course, you'll be out there at Estacado and Abilene-Wiley. You'll also get a look at Coronado and Monterey's home games. We'll also be at the Old Brawl over in Idalou when they host Shallow-Water. A lot of good games this week, but that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Happy State Bank Football Fever. Lots of good coverage over at LoneStarVarsity.com and LubbockOnline.com. Get over there and check it out. But for now, for George Watson, I'm Zach Long. We'll see you out there Friday and Saturday.
Yep.